All right. Testing. Oh, what's with my voice? What's with my voice today? Uh, I seem like really great today, huh? I'm okay, in case anyone is wondering. Well, I'm actually not that okay. So I'm training. I've been training for a 10K race, and my coach is very demanding. And I also got myself into trouble because I have to run a half marathon this Sunday in order to. And I've been running this 4 week, and my coach is like, "Oh, you have to do more." And then I had to go to the pool, and oh, I'm a little tired. But the problem is that I got myself into this, so I can't really blame anyone because I was the one who decided to run this race and have like a 40s crisis where I'm just like running and diving and doing all this crazy stuff just to feel young. Wow, that was quite a rant, like a personal rant in the Good morning, parametric design, computational design, etc., etc. Oh boy. Mhm. All right. Let me center myself. Let me center myself. Live stream, parametric camp, computational design. Let's do this. Can we do this? All right, let's do this. So, first things first. Hi, my name is Jose Luis. If you're new to this channel, it's called Parametric Camp. We do computational design tutorials. We often do them live, like today, here in the company of my fellow parametric campers here in the chat. I like doing this in real time so that I get feedback, comments, I change things as I go based on people's feedback, and it's also nice to hang out with human beings and be part of a community. So I like that a lot. If you want to learn more, we have social media. We haven't posted on Instagram for a while. It's kind of sad. I need to get back into that. Anyway, we have Instagram. We also have a Discord server. The link to the server is in the description of this video. That's where we have offline conversations throughout the week. I also announce there when do we go live, etc., etc. And if you also want to be, if you also, which is typically Friday mornings my time here in the East Coast of the US, but if you want to know exactly when do we go live, you can subscribe to the Google Calendar that's in the description of this video as well, and you will always see an event there when we are going live. Eric, hello, good to see you again. And yes, so that's the formal introduction. So now, how is everyone doing? Oh, team designs, how's that? Hello, Mohammed Mojahid. I don't know that we've met before. It's a pleasure. Whew. All right, let me. I woke up very early today, physically, but I don't know that I'm still mentally here. All right. So, what are we doing today? Colin Matthews. I also don't know that we've met before, but it's a pleasure to see you. Spar, good to see you. Giacomo, a lot of new folks today. I don't know if we've met before. Giacomo Grimaldi, I don't know. Anyway, welcome to the channel. So, what are we doing today? Yeah, what are we doing today? Let me see. So if you remember, we are right now in the process of, recording this new playlist. I'm actually gonna write here in progress. Yes. We're right now in the middle, or more like at the beginning of recording this new playlist where we are going together to develop a Grasshopper plugin. And the Grasshopper plugin is going to be for is going to be for AI and machine learning in Grasshopper. And as we have explained before, it's not going to be about AI or machine learning from scratch. It's going to be just a plugin that is going to help us access online machine learning tools and make that process super easy. For example, if you're familiar with OpenAI and the work that they've been doing, you know that they have two models that are very popular, DALL-E for text-to-image generation and GPT or ChatGPT, which is for text completion. So if you're familiar with those, you may or may not know that the way you use them is not by downloading code and running code in your computer, is by doing what's called an API request, where you basically do what's called an HTTP post request to a server that is controlled by OpenAI. You authenticate yourself with a token, and then you get the result of whatever you were asking, that image from text or a text completion. This process of having some code that is running in the cloud and us accessing and using that code using API calls, it's a very, very common model, and it's one that is getting more popular these days. So what I'm going to be doing, what we are going to be doing, because this is actually a community project, and I'll talk about that in a second, what we're going to be doing is that over the course of the next few live streams, we are going together to develop this plugin. And how are we going to do that? And so I have here, at some point in the past, we did this, we recorded this, we did this planning of, the plugin is going to be called Brain, I think. And we did this, basically a breakdown of the steps that we were going to follow, etc., etc. So you can actually see that in the project planning video. You're probably, as of this recording, you're probably not seeing these videos because they are not published yet. They will be published next week, I think. Yes, I am seeing them because I'm logged into the account, so I can see them. But on your end, these videos are probably hidden right now. But if you want to see them right now, you can go to our previous live streams, which is where we recorded them. Anyway, so we're going to be doing this. We're going to be building this plugin together, and we did this planning. We had some basic setup, infrastructure, etc., etc. I should change this to AI plugin or something. And then we recorded. Oh, wait. Do I have this? Oh, wait. I'm thinking right now. And then, if you remember, we recorded the first video, which was creating a generic HTTP post request. This is Jose Luis, which I'm going to mute here. And I can see that here we have, yes. Oh, I know what's happening. Sorry, I know what's happening because this video we recorded, where is my YouTube Studio? So in this video, we recorded the blocking version, the synchronous version, but I wanted to switch to an asynchronous version. We actually recorded that already. It's just that, yeah, exactly. It's just that I have not processed those videos, and they're not, yes, so they should be on the list, but they're not because I still haven't processed them. We recorded them last live. So if you want to see these videos, you have to go 2 live streams back. So that would be 118. And if you want to watch the next video, so that would be asynchronous request, asynchronous components, etc., etc., then that would be live stream 119. So the last one that we did. All right. Beautiful. So with that, we should already have the basic tool for doing HTTP post requests, which is quite important because it's basically the underlying way we access these APIs. And then what we will do is that for OpenAI, IBM, etc., we will create specific components that are pretty much do the same thing under the hood. It's just that they make it a little easier to serialize and deserialize information. Okay, so that's one thing. What is the next thing? What we're going to do today is that we're going to continue the development. So we do have now post requests. So I've written here a bunch of notes. So at the very end of this document, I have so we recorded already all these videos here. And I think what we're going to do today is that we're going to record, so this should be 2.3 and this should be 2.4. And we're going to record a simple get requests, which is, how am I going to say this? We should probably explain that this is going to be for what? For simple get. I could probably explain that. And then we're going to record how to get environment variables from the system, which is very important for for example, getting API keys and tokens and that kind of stuff, which I will also explain in the video. All right. And I think that's going to be it. I want to make a very short video about dragging and dropping images on C# component. This is something that Victor taught me very recently, which I didn't know, and it totally blew my mind. So that video is going to go to the advanced development in Grasshopper list. And I think with those 3 videos I think we're very good to go today. Any questions? Any concerns? Any ideas? How are you feeling, folks? So I think that's what we're going to do today. And in order to get there, what do I have here? In order to get there, what are we going to do? In order to get there, arguably the most complicated one is going to be the get request. So I think what we probably want to do is we want to probably prototype that real quick here together. And then once we have the prototype, then we record the video. And then after that, the environment variable component is going to be super easy, and I will say this. And what is it going to be? The environment variable one is going to be pretty straightforward, and the drag and drop is also going to be super, super easy as well. All right. How are folks doing? I see a lot of new people in the chat today. Would you mind just doing like a quick intro, like what's your name, if you want to disclose that, your pronouns, if that's important for you, where are you calling in from, why are you here, how did you end up here, you know? I would be really happy to hear some of that if you can do that. And you know, when I'm looking this way, I'm actually looking at my side screen where your chat is. Okay. So I would be super happy to hear some of that. I like meeting people. I spend a lot of time with computers and robots. I appreciate the human, the human touch, you know? All right, so let's get started then. So what are we gonna do? Where am I? And I still have not, no is going to kill me. I still have not installed the Stream Deck. I should just do a live stream just on that. So what are we going to do? So the Brain plugin is where do we have this? Parametric, no, this not parametric cam. All right, plugin. I think we can delete this. And where is this? So I have my folder here, parametric, the Brain plugin here. Yeah, and this thing here is bothering me a lot, but I just can't do anything about it. Okay, so we have utility components, HTTP post request asynchronous, and then request state enumerator. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in on that, utility components. I don't like this namespace. Can we change this to Brain? Yes. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. All right, so I guess, do I have a git changes here? Yeah, I'm going to push these changes. Refactored. root namespace. Commit, and then push the commit. All right, and the commit is up. Hey, Mesrat, good to see you. Not Mesrat, Merzad. I hope I'm not mispronouncing that terribly. Okay, so we're gonna do an HTTP GET request, okay? So let's prototype that. I actually do have a prototype of that somewhere. Let me look that up. Where do I have that? Where do I have that? Let me think. I must have that somewhere. Physical computing, machine communication. No, not this. Oopsies. Okay, I think I got, yes, all right. I think I got this. Perth? You mean Perth in Australia? Is that what you're calling him? Powellech? What time is it there? Is it like, well, I guess like 11 p.m. maybe? Colin, communication designer from New York working in ENIAD Architects. What is that? I've never heard of them. ENIAD ENIAD Architects. Makes transformative architecture for publics. Okay. Oh, this looks cool. Nice. I really like the playlist in the channel, hoping I can help out with Brain in some way. Well, well, on that topic, thanks for pointing that out. On that topic, as I have explained before, so the Brain plugin is going to be a community project. So we have on the Discord server, we have a channel called Community Projects, and in these community projects, I'm organizing volunteers to start a team where we're going to all work together in the Brain plugin. Okay, so if you're interested, just make sure to come to the community project and just read through the chat and see where can you help, what do you think you could contribute to the project, and then we will reach out very soon as we have formed some kind of team and we have assigned some kind of roles, etc., etc. Okay, beautiful. So I did prototype here a GET request component. All right, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy somewhere here so that I can, yes, so that I can have like here on the side, I can take a look at the URL. Okay, so I'm going to close this and then, I'm going to prototype this real quick. So it's going to be a new item. Perth. This is awesome. I think you're the first person from Australia that I meet here in the channel. I have a lot of friends in Melbourne and some in Sydney, but I don't know that I know anyone from Perth. By the way, if Nick Gutierrez from Melbourne is here, listen here, is ever. Hi, man. I miss you. Post get request component. Prototype. Okay, so that's going to be a prototype, and that's going to be get. Actually, let me dock this here so that I do a little bit of smart copy pasting. All right, so post, blah, blah, blah. I'm not gonna write any of this. Well, I probably want to do this asynchronously, right? We probably want to do this asynchronously. Generic, and this is going to be async, and that's going to be under Brain utilities, And then we're going to what? We're going to copy all of this here, and we're going to keep send. We're going to keep the URL. We don't need the body. We don't need the content type because do we need headers? We will want headers at some point. We don't need authorization for GET requests. Do we need authorization for GET requests? We might. Are there GET requests with? There are actually. Well, we will want this at some point in timeout. Well, actually, let me just add this here. And we would need to find a good case for a GET request with authorization. I think the Twitter API requires a token for GET requests because the Twitter API is GET request based. Well, we're going to leave it there just in case. And then the response is going to be whatever. Solve instance. Oh yeah, so we're gonna have, I want to copy probably from this, from the response. It's going to be response should expire request state. Request state. Can I rename this? Exactly. Rain. Send URL custom headers for the future. Authorization ID. Optional. So response. All right, and then solve instance. If we should expire, we're going to copy all of this. Inactive, set data, complete, set data the response. So that's good. So for this, we're basically going to copy most of it, which leads me to, we will have to record a video at some point where we basically create components. So we abstract all this functionality so that it can be reused and people don't have to copy paste this, but we will get to that at some point. Authorization, content type, and body. We don't need this. If this is not active, then we're gonna take request should expire the solution, etc. All of this we already saw in previous videos. So then we're gonna get this except for the body and the content type that we don't need. We're going to do some validity checks here. All right. If content type, we don't need the content type. And current state, requesting asynchronous post, which we don't have. So we probably want an asynchronous get. Async get. Then we're going to overwrite this. Again, don't worry about this. I'm currently just really quick prototyping based on what we did last live stream, and then I will explain how this works as soon as I get it to work, basically. Okay, and then this is going to be asynchronous get. And for the synchronous get, I don't need the body or the content type. I need to import threading, okay. I need to import system text, web requests, etc. We don't need this. Compose the request, okay. Method is going to be get. That's not what I have here. I wonder if secure expect continue, true, security protocol, authorization, otherwise the credentials are the default credentials. And then We don't need to write any stream. Yeah, all of this we don't need because we just need to get the response. And then once we need a stream reader, get response, read to the end, and then the current state, and then the Rhino app. Huh, okay. Exception, current state, and I think that should be the... Oh. Was it that easy? Really? Okay, I guess let's give it a try. Why not? Oh, let's replace them all. Oh boy. This is because I changed the name. Okay, so where is brain? Here. So utilities, get request prototype. All right, so we're going to, and this is, okay, so we're going to send this. And for example, the address is going to be http blah 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 www.parametric.camp. So if we do that, and the timeout is going to be 10,000. If we do that, the URL, we will probably get some kind of HTTP response, correct? Turn on, requesting complete, and we get the parametric camp website, which is really, really bad and really basic, but it works. Okay, nice. So that was great. Is there any API that I know of that requires authorization with a GET request? I think the Twitter API does. So, folks, let's take a little bit of a diverge here. Twitter API documentation. Yeah. Twitter developer portal. Yeah, okay. I think I have a sample file somewhere here. In the GET request, in this one. Oh no. Oh boy. What have I done? Okay, I broke things. Oh, okay. So this is the MBTA. What about Twitter? Twitter, no. Okay, yes, exactly. So this is one. I think this also, yeah, it has the better token, authorization better, whatever. Ah, why did you do this to me? I think I have an example for Twitter. Let me pull that up from somewhere. So this is good. This works. Let me actually save the other file. Let me save this one because it's kind of working and I like it. Let me, where is the other data and APIs? The Twitter API. There you go. Oh. I have a JavaScript version of this. Okay, which it's fine. Oh, that's my key there. Okay. So let me see if this still works. So I'm going to add a key to my environment. All right, I can't really show you this. I'm sorry, folks. Advanced system settings, environment variable, OpenAI API key. So I can probably do Twitter API key and this whole thing here. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so that should work. And then if I make a call to that API, okay, so what is this? So let's see. Okay, so that should be query. All right. Okay, so if I do this, and I query the API, it should give me an error because I'm not authorized. Yes, that's what I wanted. And now, if I do this, and I say, well, but instead of the Open API key, I want the Twitter API key. Maybe it doesn't give it to me. Yes, it doesn't give it to me because when I started this environment, I need to basically restart everything here. So, okay, so Twitter API key. So I'm going to stop this. I'm going to save this. I'm just testing at this point if the authorization for a private GET request is going to work. And if it works, we're basically done. So let me restart this. Okay, so I'm going to now run this. Oh, Power Ledge. Oh. I think I need to just clear my... Yeah. I think I just need to clear this. Yeah, because I have like the two plugins and they're conflicting with each other. The two files. Yeah. Okay, let me just stop this. And because I renamed the project, you see that now when I'm compiling, I have two. I have the new name and have the old name, and because they both have the same IDs and the same stuff, it's getting conflicted. So now I'm going to run, and you see the compilation is going to generate brain only, and now hopefully I will not get these errors. Okay. And now do I have the Twitter app? Yes, you have it. All right. So now if I plug in this, it gives me an error, but if I plug in the authorization header, do I have the white space here? Yes. Is the key the right one? Do I still have that key? Is it expired? Let me see. Can I take a private look at my API key? JLX text testing, development apps. Okay. Authentication method, keys and tokens. What is this? Ooh. Nope. Yeah, it was the wrong one. So I guess I show you. Yes, I want to regenerate it. Okay. Oh boy. Okay, folks, I need a second because I just messed up my entire I just messed up my entire Twitter developer account. So I need to regenerate. Oh boy. Oh man, where do I have this now? Okay. So here, this one. I apologize, but yes, I need to, and then the bearer token. Yes, I'm going to, and the bearer is going to be this whole thing here, which I'm going to now override on my system. Oh boy, this is a lot. Well, hopefully and it's going to work sometime very soon, and then I can explain what I'm doing if I get it to work. Yes, I saved it. Access token and secret. Access token and secrets. Access, oh boy. And then what is this? Access token secret. Okay, so then let me restart everything now and see if with the updated bearer key, this works. Oh man, that was a lot. Oh. Colin, how did you end up here? How did you find us in the first place? How did you learn about parametric camp? And same for you, Powerledge. How did you learn from us? Okay, so I'm going to now try this out. Oh, yep, it works. Complete. Better token. Yes, I guess the token that I had was expired or old or something. All right, beautiful. So this is working. So then if that's the case, then we can, I guess, like, how can I, how can I then, okay, so I'm gonna copy here. I'm gonna copy here on one side. I'm gonna copy this so that I remember it. I'm going to also all right. And I'm going to remove this. I'm going to save the file. And then what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What else do I need? I need the code before. I think the code is actually pretty straightforward after what we've done with the previous one. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna leave that over there. So, okay. And actually, I can probably just delete this because I don't think I need it actually. Okay, I think we're ready for prime time, for recording. Are you folks ready? I don't know if I'm ready. Okay. All right, let's do this. So I'm going to remove this thing. I'm going to update it root namespace. I'm going to push this and then, okay. And then we're going to start from here. I was trying to learn more about coding in Grasshopper last summer and I came across your channel and YouTube search. Oh, the YouTube algorithm is showing us. I'm very happy about that. Very nice. Well, if you ever make your way to Boston, just hit me up and we can grab a coffee or something. That would be nice. All right. So we have okay, so let's record the video now. And I'm going to my note, record introduction, because in the introduction, I would probably want to show the thing working, right? And I will probably want to show the thing working. I will want to show the thing working. And then after that, what I would probably want to do is I would probably want to start the main part of the video by describing what a GET request is. So I will probably want to start some Firefox and then platform, OpenAI. And I'm going to go to the API reference. And for example, for completions, I'm going to say, well, there's post requests, but there's actually other ways. Twitter API examples. Okay, load your app, API key token. All right. And then developer platform, and you see that we have a GET request where you basically compound here what is that you want, and then the token, the better token. So I can probably talk about this. Yes. Introduction, setup. Is there a link here? It doesn't matter. So I can probably do that. And then I can explain this is why we're doing this. Also for the sake of completeness. And then I start the development by basically starting a new component and mostly copy pasting the code, the previous code, same as the post request, and then adapting the thing to just change the request type. Yeah, that's going to be a pretty straightforward video, actually. Okay. Similar to calling and stumble upon the play, they were great. Really appreciate it. Thanks. Well, thanks to you. Thanks to you. Okay, then let's record the video. All right. HTTP verbs. I'm probably going to do this here. Okay. Yes, I think this is a probably good blah, blah, blah. Okay, all right. So then let's do that. Before we get into any coding, I want to take a minute to actually go through what a GET request is. And if you have been watching our previous videos, you may have heard me say a lot that the way we're going to interact with APIs is going to be mostly using HTTP post requests. And you have seen the example of OpenAI, where in order to get, for example, a text completion, the documentation tells you that you have to go to this endpoint or this URL, you have to do a post request, you have to authorize yourself with a special header and your authorization token, and then you have to send this thing called the body, which is basically, in this case, it's a JSON formatted set of data that is representing what you want from the model. Okay, so this is like a very generic way of explaining this. However, HTTP post requests are basically the most popular form of an HTTP request, which at the very core stands for any form of two machines talking to each other, a client and a server, using the HTTP protocol. And POST is one of the ways that that can happen. It's called one of the verbs that this communication can happen. And it's the one that is specifically designed when the client wants to send some information to the server, and therefore the response from the server will be dependent on whichever information you are sending. So it's basically a way of knocking at the server's door but giving it some information before the server opens the door into whichever way you're going to go. But if you are curious about all of this, HTTP requests, there are many different methods. And actually, POST is not the most popular one. The most popular one is what's called a GET request, which is the one that is at the very basic of any web browsing that you have done in your life, which is basically a request where you go to an endpoint, a URL, and you basically knock on the door and you say, just give me whatever you got. I'm not going to give you any information. I'm not going to ask for anything in particular. Just give me anything you want. And whenever you type anything like google.com in your browser, what's actually happening under the hood is that your browser is doing a GET request to this URL. And actually, I think we might be able to see that if we go to the developer tools. Where do I have my developer tools? More tools, web development tools. You can see that in the network, if I now do this, you can see that, oh, I did get a lot of gets. Yeah, because it's a little complicated because there's a lot of different requests going on under the hood. But yeah, in a nutshell, the main request that you do whenever you browse any website is a GET request, because you're not really saying anything. You just want whatever the server is going to give you, right? Turns out that GET requests are very popular, and we're making this video because since we implemented a POST request, I think that for the sake of completeness, we should also implement the same request but in a GET form, right? I don't know of any machine learning oriented API that is working with simple GET requests, but I think for the sake of completeness, it would be nice to have. But a nice example of an API that uses GET requests, for example, is the Twitter API. If you ever want to parse or download like a bunch of tweets, etc., you can sign up to the developer portal of Twitter, and then you can see here how the Twitter API tells you, well, if you do a GET request and you format the request with all these parameters, search, with a query from the Twitter development user, and you also authorize yourself with a particular token that you need to get from Twitter, then you will be able to download a bunch of tweets. And perhaps this could actually be a nice example for us to try if the request is working. So we'll also, for the examples, we will also do simple GET requests on simple websites. You know, why not? All right. So we're going to do that. We're going to implement a GET request. And as you're going to see, it's going to be super easy because it's going to be a simpler version of what we did in the previous video with the POST request. Let's take a look at that. All right, so now I'm going to minimize here. What are we going to do? Yes, so we're going to start. We don't need the request state. Do I need to shut it down, really? And this is the synchronous. This is... What is this? What is going on? Why can I not close my tabs? Okay. Well, I guess we're shutting everything off. All right. So now this part is going to be, I'm going to start a component, I'm going to name it properly, and then I'm going to start strategically copy pasting from the POST request and changing things around. Okay. And I'm going to be explaining as we go. And I'm going to start by saying, if you haven't seen the previous video, then you really need to see it, because otherwise you're not going to understand anything. Okay. All right. Let's get hands-on. Just a quick reminder, what I'm going to do is I'm going to develop this component by basically strategically copy-pasting and modifying from the work that we did on the previous component, the asynchronous POST request. All right. So if you have not seen that video, or you're not familiar with what we did in that video, please check it out before you watch this one, because otherwise you're going to get a little lost. A card should be popping up on the corner somewhere, and then you can check it out. Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new item that is going to use the Grasshopper component template. So I'm going to start empty component for Rhino, and I'm going to call this HTTP get request, and I'm going to call it asynchronous. All right, get request, sorry, and we're going to end with the word component just so that we know that we're being consistent with the naming. All right, so I'm going to dock this side by side. I'm going to yes, I'm going to mute this for a second, and then I'm going to start copy pasting strategically. So for example, I'm going to copy the private variables that are part of this class, the ones that we were using to store across different threads the response and the state of the response at any given point. I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call this HTTP get request. Oh boy. So I'm going to copy from here. Let me just copy all this from here. And then I'm going to call this get request asynchronous, get a generic get request asynchronous. I think we should rename this at some point. It's a lot. And then brain and utilities. So that's great. So the input parameters, what are they going to be? They're going to be very similar to the ones we had for the post request with probably less stuff. So for example, I'm going to copy paste here and oops, no, this is in the constructor, sorry, in the input parameters. So here, I'm going to say, do we want to keep the on and off, send or not send? Yes, we want to keep that. Do we need an URL? We do need an URL. Do we need a body for the request? We do not, because the body was that package of information that we sent to the server in the post request. With a get request, we do not send any information upwards. The content type is also not going to be needed because since we're not sending any content, we don't need to specify the type of that content. We're also going to leave here a placeholder for custom headers because I think we will want to implement that at some point. And then get requests with an authorization code are actually not very common, but they are common when you're pinging APIs. So we're going to leave that here because actually, for example, the Twitter API is going to require such an authorization. And we still want to keep the timeout, all right, which we're going to make optional. So that's going to stay the same. Then for the output parameters, because this is going to be a raw request, we're going to just output the response, whatever that is, and in whichever format it comes. So that doesn't matter. And then for the solve instance, if you remember from the previous video, we did have this like two update approach where we basically launched a request without updating the component. We waited for that to resolve. And then when that resolved, we updated the component again and we expired everything downstream so that the rest of the components downstream now triggered an update. So again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, please make sure you watch the previous post request asynchronous version. All right, so I'm going to copy all of this, which is the part that handles the second update. And all of this is pretty much going to stay the same. We just want to manage the state of the request, what kind of things do we output, and the message that we print out on the console, on the tiny drop down in the component. We're going to keep all of that the same. Then otherwise, we're going to fetch the inputs. We're not going to need the body. We're not going to need the content type, but we may need the authorization token. So we're going to leave that all of it there. All right. Then we're going to fetch inputs. We're also going to copy paste this as it is. However, again, we're not going to need the content type nor the body. We need the URL and the authorization. We did some validity checks here. So we're going to copy paste this, but we don't need to validate the content type because we don't have it. So I'm just going to delete this here. And then all of this, we're going to copy it the same. So we want to update the state, we want to print the message. However, we're not going to do an asynchronous post request anymore. We're going to do an asynchronous get request. So we will need to implement that function that we have it here. So I'm going to leave this here for the time being, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this, the expire downstream objects. Remember, this was the function that we used to turn on and off the expiration of the component whether if we already had a response or if we didn't. And this was this way of making sure that components don't update until we have the response from the server, okay? And then here, what I'm going to do is remember that we created this function that was an asynchronous post request. And at this point, I think I'm going to merge the two windows so that it's a little clearer to see. You see? Yes. So we had this function called asynchronous post. So I'm just going to now basically rewrite this to asynchronous get. Then remember, we're not going to need the body or the content type, so I'm going to remove that. Then I'm getting an error here because I don't seem to have the namespace of the threads. So I'm going to right click, click actions and add using system threading tasks. And therefore now here, using system threading tasks. So now the task object is available and we can see it, right? So for the request, remember we need to compose request with all the data. We're not going to parse the body because we're not going to send anybody. This, we're also going to import the namespaces that contain the web request, the web request. Now for the method, we just need to rewrite this and say that instead of a post, it's a get request. We don't need the content type. We don't need the length of the content because there's no content, right? Then I believe that for the authorization, this is going to remain pretty much the same. If we have some kind of authorization, we use that as a header. Otherwise, we just use default credentials and we don't care about anything. Now, this is the part where we send the data upstream to the server. We don't need any of that anymore because we're not sending anything. We're just knocking on the door, right? And then we need to, the stream reader, we need to import it as part of the system IO namespace, correct? And we just read everything, and I think that should be good. And then for the Rhino app, we're also going to just import the Rhino namespace. And this was the part that triggered another update and then a downstream update, etc., etc. And I think pretty much we are done modifying the asynchronous request function. And at this point, then the only thing that we need to do is here, we just need to rewrite this to asynchronous get. And remember that we're not using the body nor the authorization. All right, so I'm going to write this and I think we can give it a try. Let's give it a try. So I'm going to execute my project, and remember I had it linked so that whenever I press execute, it launches Rhino, it opens Grasshopper, and it opens inside of Grasshopper this file that I'm using I'm calling it the workbench, which is a file where I basically, I don't know what happened there, continue. It's a file where I basically have all these tests that I'm doing over the fly. It's like a testing file, if you will. And then I'm gonna go to the Brain plugin, all right? It's here. We will need to add an icon here at some point, correct? And then we have already the get request asynchronous, which is great, okay? So I'm going to place it here. I'm going to copy and I'm going to copy here, false. And then we're gonna start simple. Remember, because the get request can get anything that is in any URL, I'm going to start simple by just saying, can you fetch whatever you can find at www.parametric.camp, which is the website that we're not basically using. Can you fetch whatever you have here? I'm going to put it on the URL, all right? And I can see that it's turning on, it's giving me that it's inactive, right? And if I turn it on, I get some kind of context switch deadlock. I don't know what's going on there. I may need to take a look at that. I turn it on and you can see that what it has done is that it has fetched the HTML code of the page that is living under parametric.camp, which is this really, really simple website that we have as a placeholder right now, which is kind of shameful, but whatever. All right. And I don't need an authorization. I don't need a timeout. I don't need any of that. Correct? Beautiful. So, well, can we take a look at how this would work for the Twitter API? So if we go to the Twitter API, we can say, well, this tells me to just do a GET request, to this URL here with some header. Okay, so let me copy the URL, the endpoint. I'm just going to paste it here in a panel. Okay, and I'm going to change from parametric camp. All right. So I'm going to plug this in the URL and you're going to see, oh, the remote server returned an error, you're unauthorized. Which is true because if you see the API, it tells me that I need to authorize myself with a header. It needs to know which developer is doing this request. So I'm going to do very similar to what I did here. I'm going to copy the part where I get some kind of environment variable from the system. And I think the next video we're going to do in this playlist is a component that takes any environment variable from your system. So I'm going to go and double click here and say, instead of OpenAI key, I already have in my system what's called what I named a Twitter API key. This is a name that I gave it myself. And if I do, and I see that, yes, I have my better token over there, and I'm going to rename this just because I have a little bit of OCD, Twitter API key, right? And then if I plug this in here, authorization, oh, I do get a response. It's just that I didn't get anything, which is kind of, so I can do, because I haven't posted in a while actually. So let me see if I can change the query and say that instead of from parametric camp, can I do a query where I'm going to search for a hashtag and the hashtag code in HTML is %23. And can I search for the hashtag computational design? Okay, and let's see what I get. And if I do that and I plug it into the URL, boom, I get all these tweets from this user, touch designer, creative coding, interactive art, AI generated concept, Ulysses, etc. So it looks like it's working. Okay, beautiful. So I think this works. So we were able to implement a simple GET request that we can use to just get websites, to just get information from services that are online, and to ping, for example, the Twitter API with this kind of a very simple GET request way. Okay. Beautiful. So I think with that, we're pretty good for this video. So we have the basic ingredients, post requests and get requests for the plugin. We will need to add some icons, etc., etc. So I guess in the next video, we're probably going to write a fetch environment variable. That sounds about right. Yes. And so hopefully see you on the next video in this playlist. And in the meantime, if you like what you saw, maybe like this video, subscribe to the channel, say hi, all those things that we like these days. Thank you very much and see you in the next video. Bye bye. Beautiful. Hey, Hannah, thank you. Happy that you like them. Wait, this should be clear in this. Ah, that's not working well. Send if active, request state off. Huh, expire solution. Request that should expire, yes. Weird. I thought that should have. Huh. That's not cool. This should be spitting out an empty. No. Oh boy. Send request state is off. And if request is should expire is true, expire the solution. We expire downstream objects. It should expire in current state off. Then we set inactive, set data. Response equals this much. Let me see. Okay. Because I'm setting the response anyway. Because I'm overriding it with the response. Yeah, this is not very clean. So if I now do this, I should not need to do that, correct? What? Oh, because I'm not setting the state to false. Maybe I should just not output here. Maybe I should always, yes, maybe that's what we need to do. And this should be breaks. Yeah. That's what it's going to be. Inactive, complete. Yes, and I need to add here the response. Yes, there you go. There you go. Okay. Do we need to do this for the other? Yes. So I'm going to then git changes, added get edit async get request. And now I'm going to modify the async. I'm going to add this requesting. I know. And I'm going to add the response here. And then I'm just going to remove this guy and this guy. Yes, just like we have it here. Fixed outputs of post request. Okay, and I'm going to push them both. All right. And now I need to record the intro. The intro is going to be okay. Okay, and okay. This, okay. That's fine. Okay, so the introduction. Let's do this. Uh, Hello, this is Jose Luis here at Parametric Camp, and welcome to another video in our playlist developing the Brain plugin for Grasshopper. So in this video, we want to extend off what we've done in the previous videos where we developed a post HTTP request. And then in this video, what I wanted to do is a simpler request, which is the GET request. It's a request that we can use to basically download any information from some kind of URL or endpoint. So for example, here with Parametric Camp, I'm just going to turn this on, and then it's going to download the HTML of this URL, or for example, something that we can use to ping special services like the Twitter API. So if I press this URL and then I add my Twitter API key, you can see that I can download a bunch of Twitter tweets, if you will, right? That then I can probably deserialize. You know what? I'm actually going to do that. Recording again, recording again. We're gonna start over again, and so I'm actually going to disconnect here, disconnect here, disconnect. So I'm going to, this is too much, so I'm going to copy this, and then I'm just going to copy and paste all of this down here. I'm going to remove this part, and then here I'm going to basically authorization token, the response, which if I deserialize the response using the almighty JSON, I'm going to plug this in here, and it's going to give me the data. The data is going to be an array, and the meta, I'm not interested. So the data is going to be an array of IDs and text, and then I generated concepts. Okay, I think I'm going to use this. Yes. Up. Okay, so I'm going to record the intro again. I'm actually going to do this because when I do, I'm actually going to do this because when I am when I'm take a screenshot of the, yes. Huh. Okay, so when I make the covers, I like it better like this. Yeah, let's start like this. Okay, let's do this again. Hello, this is Jose Luis here at Parametric Camp, and welcome to another video in this playlist developing the Brain plugin for Grasshopper. So in the previous videos, we developed a basic and generic post request so that we could access APIs for machine learning and AI. In this video, I would like to make a very similar request, but one that is called GET, one that is pretty much the bread and butter of any browser or any request. So for example, here you can ping the Parametric Camp website, and if I turn this on, what I can get is the HTML code that is inside of that URL, right? This is very useful when we have APIs that work with the get verb. Like for example, if you go to the Twitter API and I say, can you give me a bunch of tweets under the computational design hashtag? So I can turn this on, and what you can see is that I get this blob of a lot of stuff, which if I deserialize it, then I get basically a list of the tweets that are talking somehow about computational design in their hashtag. Okay, so I can see interactive art, AI generated stuff, filaments that are abrasive. I don't even know what that means. But I think it's a very useful tool to have, especially because some APIs require post requests, some APIs require get requests. So I think for the sake of completeness, it's very nice to have the two options, post and get. All right. The code is going to be extremely similar to what we did for the previous post request. It's actually going to be simpler than that. You're going to see. All right. Let's get hands-on. Okay. All right. So that video is done. Great. I'm going to save this. All right. The bench. And I'm going to stop this. Actually, wait, before we do that, I'm going to copy this, which is shameful, but yes. Okay. I'm going to close this. Okay. All right. So Solution Explorer. All right. Okay, so that was one video. The next video we want to do is going to be getting an environment variable, which is going to be very, very easy. So can we just prototype this real quick? So I'm going to add here a new item, environment variable. So this is going to be under, oh boy, let's prototype this real quick first. So what am I going to do? This is going to be, I'm going to copy all this stuff here. And then here I'm going to call it environment variable. This is going to be environment variable. Then we're going to have a text parameter here in the input. And this is going to be URL. No, this is going to be environment variable. No, this is going to be the name. Name and then N. And then whatever. We don't know. I don't care about this. And then add text parameter. This is going to be the variable. This is going to be the value. It's actually going to be more like the value. And then for solve instance, what are we going to do? We're going to fetch the URL. We're going to fetch the name. And then if we don't get the name, then get data. If we don't get data 0 reference name, and if we don't get it, just don't do anything. And then string value is going to be equal to this thing that we got here. Environment variable get, and then that's going to be here, is going to be the name. We don't need this. And is this, if we don't get it, what do we get? Okay, so we're gonna, because it can throw an exception, so we're gonna say try string variable and then da dot set data 0 and get the value. Otherwise, we're going to catch the exception and we're going to say da add runtime component, add runtime message of the type error, cannot fetch environment variable whatever name, and then we're going to add here and then the exception dot message return. Okay, beautiful. So let's try that out. So, and then the bitmap, the component. So let's see if this works. Disconnect context. I don't know what's going on here with this. I need to take a look. I don't know if it's because I'm running the whole thing in. So utilities, environment variable. So for example, if I say Twitter API key, I should probably get something, right? Which is all of that, yes. What if I put something that doesn't exist? I get null. Okay. So then what kind of error do I get? How can this throw then? Exception, security exception, the value of the environment, or null if the variable is not found. Argument null exception. So how can I get then? Because the argument is null. So that would be here, and I would get disconnect, and input failed to collect data, cannot fetch, value cannot be null, parameter variable name variable. Okay, well, and yes, okay. So that's working, so I think we can already do that. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to record the main video. And so I'm just going to delete this, and we're just going to record a super simple, I mean, it's going to be super simple, yes. Okay. Brain utilities. Okay. All right. So then let's go for it. I should have kept the code. All right, let's do it. This component is going to be piece of cake, super simple. So let's get started. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to add a new item, and that's going to be a template, a component template. I'm going to call this environment variable component. All right. So we're going to start like that, and then I'm going to call this environment variable. The name is going to be envar, I guess. The description is going to be get the value of an environment variable of a system. Is that redundant? I don't know, but I'm just going to keep it there in case it's going to be under the Brain plugin in the utilities category. So for the P manager, I'm going to add a text parameter, which I'm going to call name. So that's going to be the name of the variable. The N is going to be the nickname, name of the variable to fetch. And this is going to be an item, just one single thing. And then for P manager, for the output, I'm going to add also a text parameter that is going to be what? Value. So the value of the variable that we are fetching. So that's going to be value of the environment variable. Okay, and that's going to be also of the type item, because we're only going to fetch one. All right, beautiful. So here we're going to do the typical trick where we're going to say, I'm going to declare here a variable called name that I'm going to initialize to anything, and I'm going to say if I don't get from, if I don't get from, I'm going to zoom in here so that you can see it better. If I don't get data from the first input and that I reference into the name, if I don't get this, then I do not want to continue executing anything. So just stop execution, all right? And then this is going to be super simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say the value of that variable is going to be whatever I find in my environment. So in C#, there is this global static class called the environment that we can use to fetch and to read information about the state of the system. And you can see that the autocomplete is already giving me get environment variable. All right, so I guess that was it. Super simple, all right? Now, and then what I would do is I would say da.set data in the first output, the value that I get from value, all right? However, we want to be cleaner computational designers, because if you hover over get environment variables, you can see that there is a chance, there is a chance that we get exceptions, that something goes wrong. So for example, this argument null exception means that if for whatever reason, the input is a null object, this is going to give an exception, and that exception will crash Grasshopper, give problems, etc., etc. So it's much nicer to handle that exception by wrapping any code that might fail with an exception into a try-catch clause. All right, and it's typical in the try-catch clause to also say, well, you know what? I also want to receive that exception that is happening and handle that exception. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, if something goes wrong, I'm going to flash the component in red. So I'm going to add a runtime message to the component. And we've seen this in previous videos where we handle errors. There should be a card popping up in the corner somewhere. The message level is going to be error, and I'm going to say cannot retrieve environment variable, and then the name of that variable, and then a colon, and then I'm going to write here whatever message the exception contains, right? And after that, I'm going to stop execution, which is a little redundant because there's really nothing else after that, but just for the sake of cleanness and completion, all right? I'm going to say here save proof the environment variable fetch. All right, beautiful. With that, we're making sure that whatever happens here is not going to crash or stop or mess up with Grasshopper. Okay. All right, beautiful. So let's give this a try. You see, it was actually quite simple. So we're going to open Rhino, open Grasshopper, open this file that we're using for testing. And then we got the examples that we did in the previous videos, okay? So here, we have the Open API. Can we replace this with our new environment variable component? And the environment variable is going to take a name, so that's going to be OpenAI underscore API underscore key. So we're going to plug this in here, and you can see that I get blah, blah, blah. I get all of that. So if I plug that in there now, do I get a response? Do I get requesting something? Yes, I do get a response. So it's working. All right. So now this is much cleaner. And then let's see if we can do the same for the Twitter API. So here in the Twitter API, so I'm going to plug this in here, and it's going to give me an error because I have the Open API key. Can I replace this with Twitter API key? And if I press that, then things are working. So it's fetching things correctly. Let's see if I input something that is not working, so blah, 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 something that doesn't exist, what I will get is a null value. So can I actually have a null? Well, it's okay. So yeah, so it's working well, I think, yes. And if we get any error, it is going to be properly handled. Okay, fantastic. So now we have a way to just fetch those environment variables. Super simple. That's very easy to do in C#. Thank you very much. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, click, subscribe, like, etc., etc. And then see you on the next video in this playlist. Bye bye. Do I have some weird, what other variables I could? Advanced system settings, environment, what other variables do I have? Mm-hmm. Okay, so okay. I think this should be good. All right, so let's start the video. I'm going to rename that, show the result, and then go back up and see how I'm using it in the previous examples. Mm-hmm. Hello, this is Jose Luis here at Parametric Camp, and welcome to another video in the Brain Development plugin playlist, something. This video is going to be super simple and super quick. I would like to show you how to write a component that fetches environment variables from the system. Remember that in previous videos we had discussed how storing passwords in files, it's a really bad practice, because when you version them, the password becomes public in your repository, or because exchanging files with passwords is just not a good thing. So saving passwords in your environment variables is the best way to go about that. I actually have a video where I discussed this for the example of the OpenAI API key. So there should be a card popping up somewhere in the corner about that video. Go check it out. And you can see there how to actually create environment variables and store your passwords there. But this video is going to be about creating a component that can read those values from your system. So I actually have a variable, an environment variable in my system called password, and that is right now reading the 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a fantastic password, right? But if I change this to OpenAI API key, which I shouldn't do because I'm recording this video, you can see that it's going to give me the first chunk of my API key that is in my system that you can't see, and that you can't use my credit card to get your DALI images, okay? So don't do that. What I would like to show you then is how I have used this new component to fetch my OpenAI API key in the sample files that we've been doing in the previous videos in this playlist, or for the Twitter API key, which I also have as an environment variable in my system, okay? It's going to be super simple. It's going to be literally one line of code, okay? So it's going to be mostly about building the component, etc., etc. All right, let's take a look at how to do that. Timothy, what do you mean? PowerShell? Is this what you mean? I sometimes do with PowerShell, but I mostly do it with just Windows. So if you go here, if you go to this PC, right-click Properties, then this window pops up, and if you go to Advanced System Settings and Environment Variables, you can see a list of your environment variables. I'm not going to scroll down because I have a bunch of passwords there. All right. But then you can just say, I'm going to add a new one, and this is the blah, blah, blah key, and this is the value. Okay. And then you just add it to your system. Just remember that whenever you do that, you probably have to restart whichever programs you want to use those environment variables, because when a program starts, it basically caches in memory the state of the environment. It doesn't, sometimes it just refreshes, but it's better to just restart things. Yeah, I actually think in the video that I was referring to, the OpenAI key, I think we saw how to use PowerShell to set up an environment variable, but I don't remember, really. Windows search. Windows search? How do you use OpenAI? How do you use Windows search, Victor? Environment, edit the environment. Ah, okay, you're right. You're right, I just did that. So you go here and you type on search, which I don't have here. Yes, you type environment variables, edit the system environment variables, and this shows up, and then boom, here. Very good. Hey Jay, good to see you. How you doing? All right, so we got this, and then thanks to Victor, we're going to record a really short video because he was the one who told me. Did you guys know this? I was blown away. So you can have, I cannot believe I've been using Grasshopper for 10 years and I didn't know that you could, so here. So you can take a component and now I can take, for example, an image and just drag it there and boom, I know. Wait, what? How did we do this, Victor? Oh, how did we drag and drop an image to the C# component? How did we do that? Because I'm literally just dragging an image and it's showing up as up. That's it. Image has to be 20. Oh, okay. All right. I can do that. Let me pull some Photoshop here. Or the size is very specific. Okay, so let me then, of course, use my face for this, because of course, canvas size needs to be, so let me crop something out here, and maybe this, I don't know. Let me crop this out, and then image canvas size, I want 24. Can I? Oops, nope. Let me image size. Look at the close-up of my face. 24. All right. So then it's super tiny. Okay, and then we're gonna trim this. The width is going to be 24. And I'm going to save this as tiny Jose. Tiny JLX. Yes, I'm going to save this. Nope. I want to put this here. I'm going to, well, let me, what did we do? Added environment variable component. Okay, we're going to update this. Beautiful. And then I think we're done with this. And then I'm going to close this. We don't need this. And tiny JLX and boom. Oh my God. And can we do this for any component? So I don't know. A surface component, whatever. Oh, we can. That's crazy. And if I save this, does it stay unnamed? It does stay. Crazy. Okay, so first of all, before we do that, where are we going to post this? So if we go to the playlists, playlist, I think this should be under advanced development, I think. And it should be under some kind of C#, utility when it's running common scripting, vector, classes versus track, extending script functionality, how to load external libraries, how to use Visual Studio as an editor, using the Grasshopper SDK. blah, 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 custom rendering, remote scripting, performance considerations. It should be before plugin. So maybe it's 4.14. Yes, so it's going to be 4.14. It should probably be there. Yes. And awesome. This is, I know, right? I had no idea you could do this. Freaking Victor, he's awesome. I even someday I'll see a file with all the wrong icons. Totally. Because you can download them and like switch them around. This could be really interesting to mess with. Okay. So yeah. So it's gonna be 4.14. And yes. And I'm just gonna do it here. Okay, we have this advanced development, Rhino. And I'm going to have here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I don't want this anymore. I want this here on the side. And we were in the advanced, okay. So here, so the video is going to be just one thing where I'm going to do, hi, this is like a really fun thing you can do. So I'm going to drop a C# component and I'm going to customize the icon by just dragging it in. And I have this icon that is 24 by 24. And I probably also want, okay. And if I do big JLX, okay, I do this. All right, okay, yes. And I will show how if you do it with the big one, it doesn't work. It just takes the image right away. And I also want to show how you can use this for any component, basically. So does this work actually with you? Boom. It does work. Yeah. All right, let's do this. Hello, this is Jose Luis here at Parametric Camp and welcome to another video in our series Advanced Development in Grasshopper. This video is actually a very short and fun one because it's not very advanced development, but it's kind of this like fun thing that you can do with Grasshopper components and that my colleague Victor from the community here at Parametric Camp showed me very recently and literally blew my mind away. So turns out that let's say you're doing C# component development, right? There's two things you can do. You can leave the component with the icon like this, or you can right click and say, awesome algorithm, right? And so you're renaming the component and then you can say, wait, but I actually want the name. So you can use the paint bucket on top of the thing, right? Or going back to the icon. But it turns out that you can actually very, very easily customize the icon of the component. How can you do that? Well, imagine you make a PNG on your system that is literally 24 by 24 pixels. And apparently it does have to be this size because it is the size of the components of the icons that are drawn on the screen. You can use a PNG file with transparency if you want like a cutout and some background. And literally the only thing that you can do is you can take that 24 by 24 image, drag it on top of the component and boom, you have a component with your custom icon. How awesome is this, right? And the funny thing is that this is not only for C# script components, but you can do it for pretty much any component that you want. So you can just drag and drop icons and they will show up on top of your components. Any random vanilla Grasshopper component can do this. Remember that this has to be already 24 by 24 and maybe 16 by 16. I don't know. If you use a bigger image, even with the cutout and everything, when you drop it, it will be dropped as an image that is going to be read by the image sampler. Even if you drop it on top of the component that you're trying to target, it doesn't work. Okay? But this is a really fun way to just create and add your custom components, your custom icons, sorry, to your components and make it look a bit more fun or even professional or prototypey, if you will. Okay, it's just a way to prototype things really fast. All right, that was it. Have fun with custom icons in your development process. And if you draw or if you make something cool, make sure to share it with us here in the community, on our Discord, whatever you see fit. All right. Thank you very much and see you on more videos on this playlist. Bye bye. All right. Well, I think that's all I had for today. Is that true? You know what? I'm actually for the cover of the video, I'm going to, yes, I want, yeah. Uh, oh, I don't think that, wait, so Jose Luis's algorithm, all right. And I want this for the cover, so I'm going to do this. And that's going to be a screenshot for the cover of the video, okay? Can we use GIF for the icon? I have no idea. Do you want to try, Jay? Just give it a try and see. I would assume if it's an animation, it's not going to be animated. It's going to be just the GIF as a static image, but it's an assumption. I don't know. Maybe it works, actually. All right, give it a try and you let us know how it goes, okay? Beautiful. And I think that's all I had for today. I need to go. I have stuff to do this afternoon, but if I have a little bit of downtime, so maybe I use this time to now finally install my Stream Deck and play with the Stream Deck, and maybe because I also bought a nice camera, so maybe I want to use that camera and install it and have better optics. I don't know. So maybe I just do that right now. Okay. And I also need to process last week's videos, which I haven't done yet. So maybe I just do some parametric camp work right now. Anyway, it was a big pleasure. Thank you very much, everyone. And I will see you next week. Are we meeting next week? Let me see my agenda for next week on Friday. Yep, I think I should be good. Yes. So we are meeting Friday next week. You know what? I'm just gonna add the event on the calendar right now. Parametric camp live stream. Oh, parametric camp live stream. There you go. And where's it gonna be, the calendar? Parametric camp. There you go. There you go. All right, it's on the calendar already. So I guess we're meeting next week. All right, beautiful. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. I'm very happy to do this with the community, and see you next Friday. Bye bye. And if I had my Stream Deck, I could press a button right now, but I'm just gonna do like, bah.